Hello everyone, welcome back to my English class. I am Jyoti Singh and today I am going to explain the chapter The Summer of the Beautiful White Horse from the book Snapshots of Standard 11th. In the part 1 we already read that the author describes a childhood incident and he gets very nostalgic when talking about this incident. And this incident is about his cousin Murad and a beautiful white horse. One fine summer morning, Murad brings a white horse for riding. Thus, he explains how the horse riding was full of thrill. We learn about the author's cousin Murad in detail. He goes on to tell about his nature and how everyone loved him in the village. We learn that Murad had a very eccentric demeanor. Moreover, he also tells us that he had a specialty of remaining calm in the most stressful situation. Thus, we also learn about the incident of the horse. Moreover, it tells how they got the horse and the story behind it. So, let's continue the part 2 of this story. After having a good ride, both the cousins come back at home and after having a hearty breakfast, the narrator told about his uncle Khosrow. That afternoon, my uncle Khosrow came to our house for coffee and cigarettes. Now he told us about Khosrow when his uncle Khosrow came to his house for coffee and cigarettes. He sat in the parlor, sipping and smoking and remembering the old country. His uncle sat in the parlor and sipping and smoking and remembering the old country days. Then another visitor arrived, a farmer named John Byrow, an Assyrian who, out of loneliness, had learned to speak Armenian. When his when his uncle Khosrow was sipping and smoking and remembering the country days, and another visitor arrived, a farmer whose name is John Byrow, an Assyrian. Out of loneliness, he learned to speak Armenian. My mother brought the lonely visitor coffee and tobacco, and he rolled a cigarette and sipped and smoked. And then at last, sighing sadly, he said, "My white horse, which was stolen last month, is still gone. I cannot understand it." And then the narrator told us that his mother had brought the lonely visitor coffee and tobacco, and the visitor rolled the cigarette and sipped and smoked. Then at last, taking a sigh, he said, "His white horse, which was stolen last month, is still gone," and he could not understand it. My uncle Khosrow became very irritated and shouted. After hearing this, the uncle Khosrow became very irritated and started shouting, "It's no harm," and shout that it's no harm. "What is the loss of a horse? Haven't we all lost the homeland?" And raised a question. What is the loss of a horse? And hadn't they all lost the homeland? What is this crying over a horse? Why he is crying for a horse? "That may be all right for you, a city dweller, to say," John Byrow said. "But what of my Surrey? What kind is a Surrey without a horse?" Then, dweller means a person or animal that lives in the place mentioned. And Surrey means a light four-wheeled carriage with two seats facing forward. And here, John Byrow, the farmer, replied to his uncle Khosrow that what happened to his Surrey and what What good was a surrey without a horse? Then his uncle replied, Pay no attention to it, my uncle Khosrow wrote. I walked 10 miles to get here, John Myro said. And then Jorbairo replied that he had walked 10 miles to get there. You have legs, my uncle Khosrow shouted. And then his uncle shouted that he had legs. My left leg pains me, the farmer said. And again the farmer replied, his left leg pained him. Pay no attention to it, my uncle Khosrow roared. And again his uncle roared that don't pay any attention to it. That horse cost me $60, the farmer said. The farmer said that horse cost him $60. I spit on money, my uncle Khosrow said. And his uncle Khosrow told that he spit on money. He got up and stalked out of the house, slamming the screen door. And after that, he got up and stepped out of the house, slamming the screen door. My mother explained. He has a gentle heart, she said. She simply that he is homesick and such a large man. Then his mother explained that he has a gentle heart, but he is homesick. He always remember his home. The farmer went away, and I ran over to my cousin Murad's house. When the farmer went away, the narrator had run over to his cousin Murad's house. He was sitting under a peach tree, trying to repair the hurt wing of a young robin which could not fly. He was talking about to the bird. After hearing the conversation of the farmer and his uncle Khosrow, the narrator ran to his cousin's house, where Murad was sitting under a peach tree and trying to fix the hurt wing of a young robin which could not fly, and he was talking to the bird. What is it? He said. The narrator asked what it was. The farmer John Byro, I said. He visited our house. He wants his horse. You have had it a month. I want you to promise not to take it back until I learn to ride. Then the narrator told him that John Byro, the farmer, came to his house and he wanted his horse back. And the white horse was stolen before 1 month. The white horse was stolen 1 month ago. But the narrator wanted that he did not back the white horse until he learned to ride. It will take you a year to learn to ride, my cousin Murad said. After hearing this, his cousin Murad replied that it would take him a year to learn to ride. We could keep the horse a year, I said. In a firm voice, he said that they could keep the horse a year. My cousin Murad leaped to his feet, and then that Murad leaped to his feet. What? He wrote. Are you inviting a member of the Garoglinian family to steal? The horse must go back to its true owner. And then he wrote. If he was inviting a member of the Garoglinian family to steal, and the horse must go back to its true owner. When? I said. Then the narrator asked when. In 6 months at the latest, he said. And then he said, 6 months at least. He threw the bird into the air. The bird tried hard, almost fell twice, but at last flew away high and straight. Murad threw the bird into the air, and the bird tried hard and almost fell twice, 2 times. But at last the bird flew away, high and straight in the sky. Early every morning for 2 weeks, my cousin Murad and I took the horse out of the barn of the deserted vineyard where we were hiding it and rode it. And every morning the horse, when it was my turn to ride alone, leaped over grapevines and small trees and threw me and ran away. And the narrator next further told us that every morning, early in the morning, for at least 2 weeks, his cousin Murad and he took the horse out of the barn of the deserted vineyard where they were where they had been hiding it and rode it. And every morning the horse, when it was his turn to ride alone, the horse leaped over grapevines and small trees and threw him and ran away. Nevertheless, I hoped in time to learn to ride the way my cousin Murad rode. And then the narrator said that he hoped he had hoped in time to learn to ride the way his cousin Murad rode. He wanted to ride like his cousin Murad. One morning on the way to Fathvizian's deserted vineyard, we ran into the farmer John Byrow, who was on his way to town. On one morning, when they were riding on the way to Fathvizian to deserted vineyard, they ran into the farmer John Byrow. And John Byrow, the farmer who was on his way to town, and the real owner of that white horse, was on his way to town. Let me do the talking, my cousin Murad said. I have a way with farmers. After seeing John Byrow, his cousin Murad said that he had a way with farmers to talk. He wanted to talk to John Byrow. Good morning, John Byrow, my cousin Murad said to the farmer. Murad told the farmer. Murad wished the farmer good morning. The farmer studied the horse eagerly. And the farmer John Byrow looked at the horse eagerly, with curiosity. Good morning, son of my friends, he said. What is the name of your horse? My heart, my cousin Murad said in Armenian. John Byrow, the farmer, wished him and asked the name of the horse. And then his cousin Murad replied in Armenian language that the name of that white horse is my heart. A lovely name, John Byrow said, for a lovely horse. I could swear it is the horse that was stolen from me many weeks ago. May I look into his mouth? After hearing the name of the horse, John Byrow replied, such a lovely name it is. And he could swear, and then he said, he could swear it was the horse that had been stolen from him many weeks ago. And he wanted to look out into his mouth. Murad said, of course. The farmer looked into the mouth of the horse. After taking the permission, the farmer had looked into the mouth of the horse. Tooth for tooth, he said. I would swear it is my horse if I didn't know your parents. Then John Byro, who is known to the honesty of that community, he said that he would swear that it was his horse if he had not known their parents. The fame of your family for honesty is well known to me. Then he talked about honesty of his family. Yet the horse is the twin of my horse, and he admits that that horse is the twin of his horse. A suspicious man would believe his eyes instead of his heart. Good day, my young friends. And that farmer, John Byro, who, who would believe his eyes instead of his heart, and went away. Good day, John Byro, my cousin Murad said, and he wished him too. Early the following morning, we took the horse to John Byro's vineyard and put it in the barn. And in the next morning, they took the horse to John Byro's vineyard and put in the barn. The dogs followed us around without making a sound, and then the dogs had followed them around without making a sound. The dogs, I whispered to my cousin Murad. I thought they would bark. After seeing the dogs, the narrator had whispered to his cousin Murad that th- that those dogs would bark. They would at somebody else, he said. I have a way with dogs. My cousin Murad put his arms around the horse, pressed his nose into the horse's nose, patted it, and then we went away. And then his cousin Murad put his arms around the horse and pressed his nose into the horse's nose and patted it, and then they went away. They had gone away. And that afternoon John Byro came to our house in his surrey and showed my mother the horse that had been stolen and returned. And then that afternoon John Byro the farmer came their house in his surrey and showed his mother the horse that had been stolen and returned on that morning. I don't know what to think, he said. The horse is stronger than ever, better tempered too. I thank God. My uncle's Koshro, who was in the parlor, became irritated and shouted, Quiet! Quiet, man, quiet. Your horse has been returned. Pay no attention to it. And after then that, John Byro come to his house and he thought, and then he told his mother that that is the horse which had been stolen, and this morning it had been returned, and he don't know what to think, he said. And that horse is stronger than ever, and it has better temper now. He thanked God. And his uncle Koshro, who was in the parlor, his uncle became irritated and shouted, Quiet! And he said that his horse had been returned. So don't pay any attention to it. Here the summary of that chapter is finished. The summer of the beautiful white horse. There are some short answer type questions for you. Question number 1. I couldn't believe What I saw, says the narrator. What was so unbelievable and why? The answer is the narrator saw his cousin Murad sitting on a beautiful white horse. It was unbelievable, for they belonged to poor families and buying such a beautiful horse was beyond their means. Come to question number 2. What two character traits of Murad are hinted at by the narrator in the initial part of the story? The answer is Murad was considered crazy by everybody who knew him except the narrator. He was quite crazy about horses. Secondly, he enjoyed being alive more than anybody else. Next question, question number 3. This was the part that wouldn't permit me to believe what I saw. What part does the narrator hint at? Answer is the narrator refers to their poverty. They had no money. They lived in extreme poverty, and it was difficult to understand how they get food to satisfy their hunger. He frankly admits that every branch of the Garoglinian family was living in the most amazing and comical poverty in the world. Now, question number 4. What traits of the Garoglinian family are highlighted in this story? The Garoglinian family, though now poor, were famous for their honesty, and even when they were wealthy, they were proud of their family first, honest next, and after that they believed in right and wrong. None of them would take advantage of anybody in the world. They would not steal. No member of the Garoglinian family could be a thief. Come to question number 5. How did the narrator react on seeing the horse and Murad? The horse, answer is the horse was magnificent to look at, gave out a lovely smell, and its breathing was quite exciting. Yet he couldn't believe that the horse had anything to do with Murad, because he couldn't have bought it. Come to question number 6. What conflicting thoughts passed through the narrator's mind on seeing Murad on a beautiful white horse early one morning? The narrator was surprised. He knew that his cousin Murad couldn't have bought the horse. Since he could not have bought it, he must have stolen it. However, family pride came in the way. He refused to believe that he had stolen it. Question number 7. What feelings did the sight of cousin Murad and the horse arouse in the narrator? The narrator stared first at his cousin and then at the horse. There was a pious stillness and humor in each of them. He was delighted as well as frightened. Come to question number 8. It was true that he had stolen the horse. There was no question about it. He had come to invite me to ride or not, as I chose. How did the narrator convince himself to enjoy a horse ride with cousin Murad? And the answer is it seemed to him that stealing a horse for a ride was not the same thing as stealing something else, such as money. Since he and Murad were quite crazy about horses, it wasn't stealing. He convinced himself with the thought that it would become stealing only when they offered to sell it. Question number 9. Give examples to show why cousin Murad was considered one of the craziest members of the narrator's family. And the answer is cousin Murad had a crazy streak. He was quite crazy about horses. He kept the stolen white horse for about 6 weeks, rode it, loved it, fed it well, and hid it in a deserted yard. When he sang in the open countryside, it seemed as if he were roaring. The last one of question number 10. Why does the narrator mention Uncle Khosrow? Which characteristic features of the man are highlighted? Answer is cousin Murad seemed to inherit the crazy streak of Uncle Khosrow. He was a young man with a powerful head of black hair and very large mustache. He was quite furious in temper, very irritable and impatient. He would stop anyone from taking by roaring his pet phrase, "It is no harm, pay no attention to it." I hope you understand both the parts, part 1 and part 2. Thank you for watching this video.